what I've seen is that the end users are really take care about the chipset. Yes. And I think the reasons are that, for India, specifically for India, if you go to the tier 2, tier 3 cities, smartphones is the only device for them to access internet. That processor plays a big role in whatever aspects they want to use for entertainment or for their business. The difference between something like a smartphone and something like IoT is
so where do you see in Indian context AI will play a better role? Will it enhance safety and security or comfort and convenience?
I think right now it's more to gear to.
Welcome to Techlogues. These are dialogues with senior industry executives who really are the, I would say, pilots and drivers of the industry in India. And in these conversations, in these dialogues, we'll try to understand how 2024 year has been in the areas they operate and what's there in 2025 for the industry, for the consumers, and for the ecosystem at large. To begin with our first very inaugural episode, I have with me Mr. Anku Jain, Managing Director, MediaTek India. Welcome, Anku, to the show.
Thank you. I'm super excited to be here.
Thanks a lot. Anku, it has been always very, I would say, it has been always so great to have conversations with you and understand from you what's latest happening in the industry and as well as what's around MediaTek and how MediaTek is kind of contributing in it. So to begin with, I just wanted to understand, can we just rewind some key takeaways of 2024 in your mind, where you feel, what were really some major happenings of 2024 as we are just kind of, looking into the year?
Yeah, so right now it's December, so we are wrapping up the year. And so it's a right time for us to see what happened so far. And so this year, I would say that it has been largely about 4G to 5G transition. So if you see in India, the 5G got rolled out last year in October, and it was a bit late, but I think better late than never. And I think since then, we have seen a lot of uptick of 5G penetration. Although, if you remember, the 5G devices came even before the rollout, right? That was a kind of unique situation that, devices were available. But I think this transition has been quite, going pretty well for MediaTek and for the industry, quite well. And so that is one big aspect also for MediaTek that, we have been able to sell more 5G devices, smartphones, and also we have seen that our flagship chipsets like the recently launched Dimensity 9400 also has seen, smartphones being launched with that chipset. So it has been quite exciting for us because we have been able to, penetrate the Indian market quite well. And if you see from smartphones point of view, we have, as per some analysts, it is 54% market share in India, and that is quite huge. So I think it's a very good success we had, and hopefully that'll carry on next year. So that is one. And secondly, I would say that in general, you would see that there's a lot of AI which is being discussed these days, right? So even our chipsets for smartphones and even other devices, they have been having a lot of AI inbuilt. So our latest flagships have, very, very high capability of AI on the edge. Because that's what we think with things like generative AI, etc., coming in, that would be becoming more important going forward. So apart from this, one more big thing happened for MediaTek this year was also in India, and I think you would remember that there were some cars which were powered by MediaTek chipset. So that was a very interesting take for us, and we have already have some some penetration in the automotive market in India. And one thing was for the two-wheeler market we tied up with GeoThings and for the smart cluster on the two-wheelers. So that was very, very interesting and very exciting for us. And I think that's a starting point of the next big explosion for the two-wheeler market for MediaTek. And secondly, for the four-wheeler market, we have had success for the IVI and the multimedia interface. And so cars like Tata EV Punch and Skoda Slavia and so on. I think these cars are already using MediaTek chipset. So that was a new development this year. So that is quite exciting. But I think the smartphones and this automotive and of course other so many verticals, as you know, right? We have smart TVs, routers, and speakers, and all of them doing very well. So one thing I noticed in India this year was that there's a lot of premiumization of things. People we need bigger cars, bigger TVs, better phones. So overall, I think that has really helped us to level up our products, and so it has been quite interesting actually.
So, we'll discuss about these things in detail. But one point I wanted to understand, I want to understand that what magic you applied. So, when we look at, say, the historically how the market would kind of pan out, MediaTek chipsets were too much, visible in the premium tier. And, many of the flagships weren't kind of opting for MediaTek chipsets back then. But this year, a lot many very popular flagships have been powered by MediaTek. So, what is the kind of secret mantra which you kind of did, and you saw this becoming the choice of these OEMs?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question, and I would maybe there are 2 or 3 reasons at a macro level, which I think are the major drivers for this to happen. And I agree that now we have so many flagships, and people are really enjoying the products that we have. So one is I think one is a given that we have had innovation all along. So although we see the end result now, but for the last several years, we have been trying to innovate, and our R&D has been very strong, and trying to bring up with new features and latest advanced features. So that is one, of course, a given, and that's like a hygiene factor. We have to keep having very strong R&D. The second would be I think the mindset change from our top management. So a few years ago, I remember very distinctly that our top management had made a strategic decision that we want to be the leaders in our categories. So for example, for 4G, we were lagging behind the launches, 4G launches, but for 5G we have been at the starting point, right? We have been as soon as 5G came in, we are there. So that was a strategic change. It was strategic change from our top management, that MediaTek has to become the leader in whatever we are doing. And of course, we have had number one position in several verticals, but being leaders in technology, that was the mindset change. And so everyone really worked very hard to accomplish that to happen. It's not so easy, right? Becoming because and then you have to really follow, not follow, but you have to really look at dig deep into the technology, which are upcoming technologies, right? Which is not really happened yet. So that was a change, and so that is the second one. The management strategy, the direction. And third is, I think we have also worked quite hard on our branding. So if you see, a few years ago, 6 or 7 years ago, you wouldn't really see the MediaTek logo on the several devices, or even in the advertisements where people used to make. But now I think after we were able to educate not only we are a B2B company, so we were able to, of course, work very well with our partners, but also we have had a very deep our strategy for B2C education. So we are able to kind of create a buzz about MediaTek and what MediaTek is all about for the end users as well, right? So I think that's also the branding aspect also has helped us to let people know the magic or the technologies that MediaTek is providing. So I think these are some factors which has been able to get us where we are. But it's a multi-year effort from the teams, not really 1 or 2 years.
And absolutely, from India point of view, I think this is very important because the percentage of people who are going for this what we call level 3 of kind of getting details about the products, wherein they really look at what's the chipset in it, and does it have any other kind of other technologies out there. So that's growing, and we have been consistently seeing this in our annual reports that yes, this is something that people are really looking into now, getting more deeper into it. So it's not like just people are looking at what kind of specification is there, but they're like getting into details also. So that's I think very important.
So I think what I've seen is that the end users are really take care about the chipset. And I think the reasons are that for India, specifically for India, the people, if you go to the tier 2, tier 3 cities, smartphones is the only device for them to access internet. They don't have laptops, they don't have computers or tablets. So this is the only one and only device. So they want to make sure that they have the right device, and I think they realize that processor plays a big role in in whatever aspects they want to use for entertainment or for their business. So processor is a big role. So I think India is, I would say, more educated in that sense.
Absolutely,
it's more by compulsion that they want to make sure that it's a good device for them.
Right. Okay, now coming on to the other side of the market, which is getting again exciting, with so much of now, I think, attention and focus on the entry level of 5G smartphones. That's very important for the country to happen as such. Again, I want to understand, like, what's your view on this market? Like, how do you see this growing? And again, I think your solutions out there do stand out, because we were doing our kind of benchmarking where we were comparing it, and when we were checking, say, your 6100 plus solution vis-a-vis the competition, we could find that the basic building blocks which a user at that segment is looking for, okay, like speed, maybe more of megapixels of camera, okay, process compute power, all of those parameters, the basic core, I would say, parameters around offering, they are your solution is doing better than the competition. So is it again that you're understanding the consumer well and understanding what that segment really looks at? So what's your take on this segment?
So that's an interesting observation, and I would agree with that. From statistically, I think there was a recent report which came out that the below 50,000 rupees penetration in India, 80% market share is from MediaTek. So that's really huge. Overall is 54%, and below 15,000 rupees is 80%. So that really shows that we have been doing very, very well in the the lower cost segment, right? And I think that's very important, because India is a price sensitive market, and people who are not able to afford the expensive devices, but they still want to be connected. I think that's a really, really important thing, that they're able to still get a hold on to a good smartphone. Now, the reason for our smartphones to be, even if they are low price, the chipsets which you mentioned, but they are very capable, because what we do is we adhere to the 3GPP standards. Now, that's a minimum that we have, right? So 3GPP standard has to be there. It has to have 4 antennas, right? So that is a standard which we want to follow, even for the lowest 5G chipset. And that really helps in the helps in getting the good performance, right? So that's one important aspect. But of course, R&D etc. has been doing well. We have been very, very good at multimedia, at camera features. So that continues and percolates down to the even the entry level.
Sure. So now, you guys are not just smartphones. That's one of the sides of your business. You are in cars and many other devices out there. So, there's a shift now, which is kind of very much noticeable if we look at the macro level. And I call it like IoT 2.0 probably. We had Internet of Things. Now probably we have intelligence of things. Okay. So a lot now, I wouldn't say connectivity is becoming irrelevant, but maybe it's taking backstage. It's not like 5G, okay, at entry level, it's exciting, but it's not that kind of a wow factor for a customer now, because that's kind of given, okay. But intelligence is definitely. So how do you see this, IoT 2.0 or intelligence of things, wherein across all these smart devices, we are now seeing AI getting, kind of into it, attached. And how is it going to really change lives of consumers per se?
Yeah, that is true. We have our MediaTek Genio series of chipsets, which are the AI IoT chipsets, which gives the smartness to any device, right? And so that is, if you see these days, all kinds of devices are becoming more smart, whether it's air conditioner or a washing machine, or even the industry, industry 4.0. We have to have connectivity and some AI or some vision, that those kind of components have to be there on those devices. So, but now how that relates to AI is that such kind of interfaces are able to provide a lot of data to the device, and that device can then use that data to do things like preventive maintenance, for example. But of course, the data is being fed into some cloud, and that kind of makes a decision that how does what's going on, right? So, but these kind of data which is being collected by these devices, that creates an AI effect. So that is, so we have all the building blocks for the vision, the compute power, the connectivity, etc. is all there. With that's bread and butter for us, right? But those are the ingredients which are really required for IoT, and that's how we are able to pick up speed on this aspect. But definitely, this IoT would be relevant for consumers, for enterprises, and for industries. I think it is very, very far. It is like all-encompassing technology, which is going to be prevalent everywhere. Now we do. So some people may not realize, but in a smart speaker, even that is IoT, right? Smart camera is a IoT, and of course in the robots or the whatever you see in the factories, and if there's a device which can judge things and have been connected and feed data to something, that's IoT. So I think so there's a lot of different use cases for IoT, and we are able to kind of tap into this market because we have all the building blocks, good building blocks with us.
Right, right. So one of the challenges in IoT in India, and here I'm talking about Internet of Things, and I think it goes down to intelligence of things also, is these use cases are very much kind of spread out, okay, and sometimes they may be very kind of specific, region specific or town specific and all that, and we see they're not scaling up well. Perhaps there is not an umbrella which is kind of bringing them all together. And many times these IoT use cases, like I interact with many startups, and they start with some IoT use case and eventually they die down. What can be done to really solve this? I feel it's a big potential we are losing out there.
So I think one big difference between something like a smartphone and something like IoT is it's the IoT is very fragmented. So in smartphones, chipsets, or even smart TVs, it's in volumes are quite high for the same SKU, right? It could be hundreds of thousands or millions, right? But for IoT, it's a combination of the chipset and also the software around it. So it's more fragmented. So the scaling is different. And I think the example you mentioned about startups. So I also have noticed that they're not able to achieve that scale, which will be a tipping point to get for profitability, right? So let's say the smart helmet using some IoT. Now they have to actually sell hundreds of thousands of helmets to make sense out of it. If it just sells 100 or 1,000, it doesn't work from business point of view, right? So that's a big challenge, and I think in that sense, if we have a generic modules which can suffice, kind of address some markets, that could help. But it's a difficult problem to solve, honestly, because the volume is not as it is in the other segments, right? I think that's a big difference.
I think like maybe some government intervention, like we have recently seen this One Nation One subscription, where they have now made access to a lot of research papers for students.
Yeah.
So maybe some intervention like that, where we could aggregate the demand and make those volumes.
Yeah, maybe that. Yeah,
that's
would be a good
probably
option, right,
I don't know.
right.
But this is a
This is
challenge.
a challenge for sure.
Challenge for
Right.
sure. Yes.
In general, if you see the startup ecosystem, the investment is really happening in the software.
Yes.
Right, because that is scalable. All you need is a laptop and, of course, good skills. But that's all you need to create a billion-dollar idea, right? But for hardware-specific startups, it needs more time, more investment, longer time, and therefore, and of course, there are a lot of good success stories. But the investment speed, velocity is not as good as it is in software. So I think the government can probably look at this aspect. Can they try to fund those companies which are doing some hardware devices, right? And because that is going to create so many jobs also, right? And I think that's somewhere maybe government can play a role. And maybe they're already doing it. I'm not aware. But
yes.
Yeah.
I think.
But the VC ecosystem is more geared up for software, not towards really the hardware aspect.
Right.
And that probably could change with time.
Now panning out beyond our homes, we now have vehicles as one of the platforms, so to say, which is becoming intelligent, connected as well as intelligent. Now, in Indian context, how do you see this? I wouldn't call it, how will it be a game changer? I think, that it becomes kind of, it's maybe premature to kind of use those phrases. But how do you see it will really impact, maybe our traffic on roads, or maybe, discipline on roads? How do you see, that getting changed with connected cars?
I think such things are changing very quickly in the West already, and because of the kind of discipline they have, right? I think in India will take a bit longer because the traffic and the environment is very complicated.
Right.
So I think it will take much longer for that to percolate down, but it's going to happen eventually. But right now, I can see in the West that some cars are really autonomous, right? And they can drive for. I just talked to someone, and he was saying that I think he has a Tesla car, and he was saying that he bought it 5 years ago,
Hmm.
and every few months it becomes better because of the software upgrade, right? And recently he took a half an hour drive without touching the steering, in the US.
Yes.
So, but that is something which is maybe far-fetched in India, because in India the environment is a bit more complicated. But of course, semiconductor still has a big role to play. We have the multimedia interface. I think they have like tens of screens will come up soon, right? And someone is watching Netflix, someone is watching Amazon Prime, right? All that is going to happen, right? So a lot of semiconductor is required for that. And of course, ADAS features and lane sensing features, all that needs computing power and semiconductor. So that is one aspect which is going to become better. And I think even the recent cars which are being launched, even the not very expensive cars, those are having such features. So that is going to add to the security aspect. And MediaTek is playing a significant role in the automotive, and as I said earlier, it's going to be a big growth engine for us going forward in India and elsewhere. So definitely it's a very interesting space to look forward to.
Sure. So there are obviously certain elements or attributes of vehicle, like there is comfort and convenience, there is safety and security. So where do you see in Indian context AI will play a better role? Will it enhance safety and security or comfort and convenience?
I think right now it's more geared towards comfort and convenience.
Okay.
Things like better screens and better features.
Hmm.
Safety is kind of limited to which I discussed about lane thing and ADAS and such things.
Right.
And but I think going in the future, probably it'll more about security and safety. I think that's going to add up soon, right? But at the moment, I think it's more about convenience.
It will be more about.
Right now, yeah, I think maybe next 1 or 2 years will be about convenience and just having more comfortable ride, right? So it's more enjoyable. That is the purpose.
Yes. I've always been visioning kind of, okay, when are we going to, watch Netflix on the windscreens? Because you don't need them. You don't need
Yeah.
wipers, because
Right.
it's self-driven. So why do you need all
Oh
that?
yeah, correct.
You could,
No one
could,
is looking at outside.
yeah.
Anyway.
So that could be maybe your future.
Right. Could be.
Netflix
Although it's
screen.
sometimes it's very spooky, right?
Yes.
If you watch a car without a driver driving it,
Yes.
it's spooky, but it's happening.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
right.
happening. It's happening. So coming on to, again, we will discuss a bit more about this AI thing. I wanted to understand, I was just recently watching this Professor Das from Harvard Business. He was in India and, participating in one of the conferences on AI. And he rightly mentioned that we should not be kind of looking at AI as artificial intelligence, but more as augmented intelligence. Because the moment we think of artificial, we feel, okay, it's a parallel world and it's somewhere competing with us. So it's going to take our jobs and all that. So what's your take on it? Like, is AI that augmented intelligence, which is kind of a layer of interface between humans and the technology world?
So I think of AI as a tool. That AI can actually give tools to people to become more efficient. So I think you're right that it's not a replacement of people. I mean, Professor Das. So it is having tools which can actually make your life more easy, in the sense let's say even things like if you are using Microsoft Word, it can actually give you prompts and give you some kind of suggestions
Right.
from the AI point of view. So you can actually focus on your thoughts rather than the grammar, for example, right? So if a person is not good in English, he can still write very good content because he has very good thoughts, but maybe not English is not the first language.
Yes.
So it's a good tool, right? So if you look at it that way, then it is a great invention for everyone, right? But what the people really are fearful about the AGI, which may happen eventually.
Yes.
And people have different measures of that. When will that happen? 10 years or 20 years or 30 years? If it happens, maybe it doesn't. That could be kind of a threat to people. That they are totally replaceable then, right? But so far, it's not looking like that.
I was going, that was my next question to you. So what do you think about this agents? I look at it from a different point that yes, whenever you are working, you need teams. Now, so far we only had humans as teams, but now we have, tech as a team also. So how do you see this, agentic AI?
So in fact, Agentic AI is something which we have introduced in our latest chipset.
Okay.
So our MediaTek Dimensity 9400, which is the flagship chipset for smartphones. is already having agentic AI.
Hmm.
So the difference between generative AI and agentic AI is that generative AI can generate content
Yes.
based on its knowledge, right?
Yes.
No, agentic AI is that it's like having a team, as you said,
Hmm.
and it is outcome based.
Hmm.
So you can actually think of an outcome which you want. So it is not only giving you information, but also acting on that information and
Hmm.
taking some actual action.
Hmm.
So that's the agent you have.
Yes.
Some kind of buddy, right? You have,
Yes.
and you can give task and it will do it. And using AI and the inputs that you give.
Hmm.
So it's more like a team, as you said. That's
Yes.
totally right.
Yeah.
And but this our chipset which we have is supporting this. It's like a platform which can be used by the developer community to create their own use case, right? Because I think eventually the explosion of this concept would be done by the developer community, right? They will have different ideas, different use cases, and they know what the market is, what the customer they want to help, and they will create lots of different applications, like we see in App Store or Android Play Store. Right. That the utility of these platforms is that it has immense number of applications which are coming up, and done by the developer community. So we are also in this Dimensity 9400. We are actually unleashing that kind of capability that the developers can use this platform to create their own use cases, right? And that will actually have an exponential rise of use of agentic AI. But agentic AI is as good as having a team of people, a team of stuff working for you, and not only just so it's outcome based, right? It can actually do something.
Okay. Now, before I move on to the next segment, where I will ask you to do kind of future telling and tell us what's there in what's the technology horoscope for 2025. I just wanted to ask you one more thing, which is on the side of MediaTek's other side of India, okay, which is more on R&D and product development, the back end side. And that's, I think, a big shift in India, which is happening, that India is now becoming a participant to the value chain, which wasn't there. India was always looked like as a consumer market. We would import things, we'd get happy कि imported laya hai, and we'd look like that. But now it's getting more onto the value chain side. So what's MediaTek exactly doing out there? Something you would like to really talk about, which stands distinct to this.
So just to give some background, like going back in history a bit about India, right? And then I'll come to MediaTek after that. Sure. So this chipset industry, or let's say chip design, it actually started in 1980s in Bangalore by TI. Okay, right. And they were actually the pioneer, I would say. They took a chance of coming to India and getting things done. And at that time, and then of course it kept getting more and more companies started having their offices, R&D office here. And definitely at that time it was more of probably a cost-effective way of doing things. But now the companies are having their centers in India, not for cost, but for the brain power that we have, right? So people, if they want to do some complex R&D, I think the engineers that we have in India, they're really capable, and they're able to crack those the difficult issues. And so people are really coming for that aspect, not the cost-effective aspect, right? So that is a big change over the last 30, 40 years. Okay. Now, from MediaTek point of view, we actually we started our office in 2004, already 20 years, so quite long, right? And so we have come a long way since then. So it was all R&D for feature phones at that time, and and then we have been able to have R&D for different verticals. So we have two offices now, actually three offices in Noida, where we are sitting here. So that's the first office we had in 2004, and in this location. And then we opened an office in Bangalore. That is 2014. So that's also just celebrate 10 years of there, right? So and then we have a small office in Bombay. And so these offices overall, we have over 1,000 engineers, and the role is both software design and hardware design, because a chipset that we create is having both our hardware aspects and software aspects. Right. For example, in 5G, you need a modem software, right? And for Android, you need a lot of board support package software and the drivers and so on. So all that capabilities are here in India, and we are actually touching all the verticals like smartphones, smart TVs, routers, and also and overall, I would say that 90% of our headcount is doing global R&D. So we can say it's like an extension of our headquartered in Taiwan. So and we are part of those teams over there. So it's like extension of global R&D. And of course, we also need to have some presence for our local ecosystem being created, right? So we have companies like Oppo. They have a large R&D in Hyderabad, so we want to support them. And we have a new set of companies, Indian companies being set up for EMS, for electronics manufacturing, and many of them are using MediaTek chipset. So we have to co-work with them to make sure that the ride is smooth. So I would say 10% is about the India local ecosystem support. So that's also very, very important for us, and maybe in the future it could grow further.
So the integration is deeper and deeper, getting
It's
deeper.
getting deeper and deeper, and it's
That's
really a
great.
requirement. And
Yeah.
I think we are lucky that we have such a good R&D pool in MediaTek here, and that is helping our customer base.
Okay. Now let's come to the exciting part, which is what's going to happen in 2025. Before you share your thoughts, a couple of things which are kind of visible out there. One, this value-driven market probably it doesn't look like the same for 2025. There is again a revival of volume, what looks like. So that means that gets more exciting. But at the same time, it may not, it may be again a kind of flattish 2025 for smartphones, what looks like. Second, since a lot of focus so far was on the premium side, so there were lots of flagships and even brands which were kind of in the mid segments, they also kind of forayed. So can we expect them getting into a lighter version of their flagships, which could kind of that's second. And any other AI of course remains on top of that. So what do you from tech point of view, what do you see 2025 likely for smartphone and other devices?
So I think overall the premiumization will still continue. That's my take on it. That that people really want to have bigger, better, and the people who can afford, of course. And so I think the flagship will have its own place. I think people really want to enjoy the benefits of those kind of flagship products. So I feel the premiumization will still continue. But certainly I think even the lower end models, that is also important for the Indian diaspora, right? So I think that would also be important, I think. But it will be, both will happen, honestly. Yeah. It won't be that the flagship will reduce in volumes but overall forecast, I agree that it is like single digits for smartphones for 2025. So that's how it is. I think it's a global phenomenon that it's a kind of flat or maybe single digit growth for next year. But I think we will continue to have a lot of flagship launches and also mid-tier launches that'll continue to happen.
So what in your opinion, why is this kind of flattish for so long? Is it because we have kind of exhausted whatever we could get out of the smartphone ecosystem, and probably we need to find out value beyond smartphone ecosystem? I think those collaborations aren't happening out there.
No, I think it could be also due to the long replacement cycle, which has become longer than before, right? Yes. So that kind of eats up into the potential volume. But I think 4G to 5G transition is still a big catalyst in India, at least in India. So I think if you see the overall population, 4G would be still more than 50%, right? Maybe 60%, right? And so they want to move up to 5G. So that kind of opportunity is still there. So that is a catalyst. But I think long replacement cycle is somewhat, it kind of makes the demand less. But overall, that's why I think the reason is being flattish. But still, it's slightly growth. Growth is still there. Yeah.
And what on the AI for devices? We saw on device, we saw hybrid, all kind of flavors we saw, and I think at least I was surprised to see AI, moving so fast across price segments. It no longer is a very kind of premium feature. It's gone all across. So how do you see AI in devices next year?
So I think AI, as you said, it is going to percolate down to lower cost devices. That is going to certainly happen because people are getting a hang of what AI can do for you, like in cameras and many other aspects, right? So people want those features in the lower cost segment. So that will happen. But in the flagships, I think AI would be very, very powerful. Like, again, coming to a Niton series of chipsets, they have, capability of 33 billion parameters for, Meta Llama 3.2, for example, right? So it is like insane amount of power. right? And so it can have, if you give a prompt on the edge without any connectivity, if you give a prompt to a stable diffusion kind of application, it can actually generate images on the fly, and it looks unreal actually, because you type and something happens on the screen without any connectivity. So it's all happening on the edge. So I think LLM and SLM, which is small LLM, those are the researches which are happening elsewhere, and so AI engines will also kind of make use of those research which is happening. So I think it's a very fast movement, as you said, and use cases are coming up, and it's very exciting. I feel AI is going to be it'll keep us going for next several years.
Yes, yes, for sure. So, other than smartphones, any other device you feel would catch interest in 2025 from consumers' point of view?
I think a new segment is automotive for us. That is a new one, and but otherwise, we have so many different verticals. I think for the audience, we can say that we have smart TVs, which are 60% market share globally, and that's like again quite amazing, right? 60% of smart TVs are using MediaTek chipset, and routers and speakers and Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi 7 is already there, and then we are already researching on Wi-Fi 8, which is a few years from now. But we are doing, we are always trying to stay ahead of the curve, right? But it is, all these segments are also quite exciting for us, because everything has some R&D, which is kind of, we want to create the next big thing. So it is quite good that way.
Okay, okay. Before we just say bye to viewers. Anku, other than tech, what are your interests? What do you love to do in your maybe free time?
Yeah, so this maybe I can talk about a few years ago, because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
used to be a very avid runner.
Okay.
Okay, so I have done multiple half marathons, maybe
Okay.
20 or 30.
Oh,
It's a
wow.
big number, right?
Wow.
And then I also went to Everest Base Camp as a trekker.
Oh,
So that was a challenging trek for 12 days. I think we had a group of people. So it's very, very challenging, because, not only the toughness of the trek, but also the living conditions are not what we are used to, right? So it is, you're from Kashmir, so right? And so, living in huts and without any heat, right? So even that becomes a bigger challenge. And then the oxygen level is low, because we went up to 18,000 feet. So this happened a few years ago. And apart from that, I'm also angel investor.
one last question. Like, how tech savvy are you? Because I believe you can't do justice with tech unless you are into it. So how tech savvy are you?
So what do you call tech savvy? Give me
That's
example.
that's a good question. I also don't have any definition. Probably how much you use tech, and probably whenever you think of any problem, you try to figure out a solution through tech.
Yeah. So I'm definitely very less tech savvy as compared to the new generation.
Okay,
Right?
yeah,
And
that's I think
crazy,
everyone.
right?
That's
I mean,
everyone. That's
yeah.
that's everyone. Yeah.
But yeah, I do use my smartphone for day-to-day activities. Searching on Google or using ChatGPT and those kind of things. So that really helps you to shorten the learning curve. Yeah, I think apart from that, I'm not able to recall anything. Yeah, but yeah, it is definitely, one has to be tech savvy, as you said, right?
So it was really nice interacting with you, Anku, as usual. And I am sure whatever we got to understand from you about 2024, about MediaTek, and about 2025, it's really interesting for consumers, for the entire ecosystem. Thank you for participating in this inaugural episode, and wishing you a very happy 2025.
Yeah, thank you so much, and it was very good pleasure talking to you. And I wish you all the best for this series that you're making, and I am sure it'll be a big success.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Bye.